lucky enough that I love what I do, you know. When you realize that time is like this and it goes by super quick, I
Yeah.
think it can help you like accomplish anything, to be honest with you. I'm from Long Island, New York, a town called Brentwood. I've been wrestling since I was a young boy, and I feel like with the sport of wrestling, it's usually one of those sports where it's like, you know, you kind of only do it if like a family member did it, kind of brought into it. It's not one of those popular sports where it's like, hey, I want to go wrestle. So since a young age, I've been around wrestling, and actually, when I was younger, like a kid, I hated wrestling. Actually, I did not like it at all.
Really?
Yeah, I hated it, man. It was like tough. I'd be like, I don't want to do this. So I dibbled and dabbled with it. Played a little bit of baseball when I was younger. But yeah, just always grew up wrestling, and I would say just messing around with it. I probably got serious with it in around maybe like seventh grade. Seventh grade is when I started taking it serious.
Okay.
I was like, baseball's cool, but I need to go with this wrestling thing. I mean, that's like I felt like my purpose. You know, I felt like my
Yeah.
purpose.
Now,
Uh,
any parents or siblings wrestle or anything like that?
yeah,
Or
my dad messed around with it a little bit, not too
okay.
serious, but he always loved it. You know, he always loved it, and he's like big into it. He's like he knows everything, so he's been around the sport seriously since like I would say 1995.
Oh
So
wow, that's
yeah,
awesome.
so yeah, I got serious within middle school, and kind of never looked back. I had my bumps and my highs and my lows, but never really looked back. Um, seventh grade, I was super small. I was like a 99 pounder, uh, really small.
Wow.
Yeah, I was super small. I was walking around at like 90 pounds. Um, so seventh grade, I wrestled middle school. Eighth grade, I went up, got brought up to varsity, and I was still super small. Eighth grade in New York, you're able to wrestle varsity as a high schooler. And I had an okay year. I mean, I wasn't super dominant in high school, but I would say I was talented, but I just never really put full effort in, I would say, when I was younger. I was kind of like very immature, I would say, all around. So I would like work hard for a period of time and then stop working
Mm.
hard. So it was like very inconsistent work. And then I would say my ninth grade year is when I really took it serious. So eighth grade year, I think my record was about, I want to say like maybe like 8-12. I was like probably 8-12.
Okay.
And then next year I was like 42-1 going into the county finals. So, yeah. So it was like
Oh wow.
it was a big jump. Yeah, it was a big jump.
Was there something that like happened during your eighth grade year where you were like, okay, this is where I'm gonna make the change, or did
Yeah.
it just kind of
Yeah.
gradually happen?
Yeah. So I'm happy you asked that. So I was at I'm from Brentwood, and I ended up losing the wrestle off my eighth grade year to a kid that was much older than me. He was in 10th grade, I believe, at the time. And uh, I was putting in a lot of work over the summer, and you know, this kid wasn't, you know, working as hard as me. And it was a super close match. I think it was like an overtime 1 point match, and he beat me. So I was a bit upset at that. And at the time, I was like, dang, at this coach, I was like, man, you see all this work I put in, this kid's not doing much. And even though he won the wrestle off, like I just felt like I was working super hard, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. And all the dudes he was beating, I was probably would have ran through anyway. And I ended up moving. I ended up moving the next year. Not only that, but not only because of wrestling, but the first town I was in, it was a rough neighborhood. Probably wasn't the best neighborhood for me to um, probably graduate from. So my parents wanted me to move to a little better neighborhood, and I ended up moving to a place called North Babylon. So that gave me a lot of um, just motivation, I would say, going into that next year. I was like, you know, I'm really going to show these guys like what they're missing out on. So all summer I worked pretty hard with this guy named Gregor Gillespie. He was a national champ for Edinburgh, so I got with him. Worked pretty hard, did a lot of privates with him, and made some jumps.
Nice. That's yeah. So that I mean, that's the classic chip on your shoulder, right? It goes a
Yeah,
long way. It really
absolutely.
does. That mentality. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Now I guess so. At that point, so that was your ninth grade year when you really started to take it seriously.
yeah.
So when did that kind of inconsistency in terms of work ethic and like making it a year
Mhm.
round type sport and year round effort? When did
Yeah.
that really take place into a full time thing?
So, I would say the inconsistency thing with me was mostly mental. I was very immature mentally. So the ninth
Hmm.
grade year was good year, and then going into my 10th grade year, I was still 99 pounds, and I was yeah, I was ranked first in the state going into my next year. So I'm looking to win states. I have all my friends, oh yeah, like you're ranked number one in the state, you're probably going to win states. And honestly, I wasn't really big on it until people started mentioning it. And I was like, oh yeah, you know what? I started thinking, you know what? Yeah, I am going to win states. And I kind of took my foot off the gas pedal and I got complacent. Um,
Yep.
so I kind of just lost a bit of hunger. And then also before the season started, I tore my meniscus, and it was like the first injury I had. So I was like, dang, I never really had an injury like this. And over that time, I was out probably a month and a half, and I started getting a little heavier. So I was walking around at probably like 102 pounds. I barely cut weight, and now I'm like 109. So leading into the next year, I'm dealing with this weight cut situation. Never had to cut weight before. I was always super underweight. So that was
Yeah.
like that was like my first little challenge was the weight cut, and I wasn't handling it well. And my first match back, I ended up losing to a kid that I pinned in like 50 seconds the year before, right?
Oh
So
God.
I'm
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm coming back. I'm like, damn, like this is not going how I thought it was, and I just didn't deal with it correctly. And I think it was like a tumble effect, domino effect, where it affected my season. So I went from suppose I was supposed to win states that year, and I ended up taking like six in the county. I ended up taking six in the county, and I mean the dudes I lost to were I mean really good. Like fast forward today, I lost to Zach Redding, who's at Iowa State, super stud. I lost to Adam Busi. No, did I lose to Adam that year? No, I lost to Adam Busiello last year, the year before. A few other guys there. I mean, they were super solid, but I ended up taking six. So I'm like, at this point, I'm hating wrestling, right? So
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, this is terrible. I was in a super depressed state, and it kind of lingered on. It lingered on to 11th grade year, and which fast forwarded helped my journey a lot. But it lingered on to my 11th grade year, and still wasn't feeling it because I was still like didn't get over that year before, and I didn't put the work into fix that situation. I just thought just going to practice, once a day was enough, but I didn't
Hmm.
put those necessary steps in to heal that pain, I would say. You know?
Right. Right. Yeah. Like you're talking about like the extra work,
Yeah,
like besides the like team practices and stuff
exactly.
like that, like getting right. Yeah. Right. I mean, honestly, that goes a long way. So Dylan and I are both hockey players.
Okay.
And that's like one thing that I've learned. And I'm thankful that I learned it at a young age, but the real fulfillment comes when the team practice ends
Yeah, absolutely.
and you complete that extra workout or you
Mhm.
complete that extra skate or whatever it might be. Like that's where the real satisfaction comes in to keep going the next day. Like you feel like you're outworking the competition.
Exactly.
Is that now like so in your own journey? You mentioned that you were kind of struggling with the mental side of things and
Hmm.
you were immature in that regard.
Yeah.
How did you change that situation? Was it a physical change or was it a mental change? Meaning like did you do something physical like that extra hours to really trigger that change, or were you just like, okay, this is, mentally you were like, okay, I
Yeah.
really got to change this.
So it was a bit of both. The change for me happened like right after high school, actually. So 11th grade
Okay.
year, I actually didn't wrestle the half year because I had some losses, and I was like, again, immature. I was like, I'm done with this. I'm done feeling this pain. I stopped wrestling my 11th. I didn't even wrestle my 11th grade year.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
And then 12th grade year, I had some time to think about it over the summer. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna wrestle. Um, so I finished my high school career. I was like three-time All County. I placed at a few national events. So it was like a good high school career. Nothing crazy, definitely not bad. Um, but for me, physically, I was very immature physically as well. So I hit puberty super late, which kind of hurt me. I hit puberty at like 17, 18 years old. So super late for me. And that's big in high school. That and
Yeah.
then for me mentally after high school, I was just like, you know what, this isn't it for me. I was like, I knew my high school career should have went way better. I knew I was way more talented than I know I was way more talented than the dudes that were more accomplished than me,
Mhm.
statistic wise. So I was like, yeah, I can't go out like this. I was like, I'm gonna give it a run. I can't go out like this. And another thing that this is, it was tough. It was tough because not only was it that, but my grades were bad in high school.
Yep.
So for me, high school was just like dress nice and talk to friends all day. That was high school for me.
Yeah.
Dress nice and
Yep.
talk to friends all day. So I had to deal with the I had to deal with the wrestling part. So a lot of effort went into wrestling, and then a lot of effort went into schoolwork and stuff.
Yeah, so what was that like? So a lot of athletes that we've talked to, some didn't go to college, some did.
Yeah,
Depends on the sport, right? Like there's different paths for everybody. But it seems pretty split in terms of the effort that was put into school versus the effort put into the sport, right?
yeah,
I think that's divided amongst all athletes, and I think that has to do with the mental side, right? Like when you're giving it all to one thing, that's like for you,
yeah,
right? Like wrestling was probably your thing, and that kind of took away from everything else.
yeah,
Obviously,
absolutely.
yeah, you mentioned, you're talking to friends and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff, like it wasn't a main priority. That's all about the whole priority list, right? Like prioritizing next wrestling, maybe, friends was after that, and then it was came the schoolwork. When did you turn that around, or did you turn that around?
yeah. So I took a like after high school, I just took a really serious approach. I don't know, honestly, to be honest with you, I don't know what really happened. I'm big on faith, so I give a lot of credit to God, to be honest with you. It was just like a switch, to be honest with you, man. Like I have a lot of support. I come from a really great situation, so I'm lucky and blessed enough to have, certain resources that other kids don't have, and I'm very thankful for that. So after high school, I had to do a few years of community because my grades were bad before I was able to transfer into a D1 program. But me and my family took a serious approach, and we were like, you know what? I don't think the best thing to do is stay home and wrestle at the near the community college near here. So because it wasn't just a serious thing, like if I was to stay home, it was you wrestle, but you're around friends all day and stuff, and
Yep.
it's not the most serious approach. So I had a friend at the time, Tommy Cox, who wrestled at NC State, and
Okay.
it's actually funny how this happened. Um, before my 12th grade year, so I was at a national tournament before the season ended. I ended up wrestling this kid named Alex Ukiza, who was he was out of Miami, and he was committed to NC State. And I wrestled him, and I ended up beating him at nationals, right? And he was more accomplished than me in high school and stuff. So that was like the one thing that gave me a little bit of like confidence to step in like that environment. So I was like, you know what? I'm not as accomplished as these guys, but I beat that kid, and it was good enough for me to get there. It made me feel like okay, like I
Right.
kind of belong.
You can still compete.
Yeah, I
You
could
can
still compete
compete
with
with
these
them,
dudes.
yeah.
So I ended up going to Raleigh, and I lived there for 3 years where I trained, and I trained just RTC. So I was at a community college, but the community college I was at didn't have a wrestling program, so I was just training with like all the dudes that were competing for Olympics and Worlds. So I had a really good situation, really good
Wow.
situation. Yeah,
Yeah. Damn. Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of I mean that's what it is about competition too, right? Is like, so a lot of people say there's a balance between everything. We talked about this with so many different people. We talk about it in business all the time, about growing the brand. There's a balance with everything. It's the
yeah,
same thing in sports, right? So for competition, the balance is like, okay, looking at your competition and saying, wow, look where he is, or you know look what they've accomplished. But then there comes in that aspect of like, okay, that's actually, to a point, that's unhealthy, because then it can get in the way of your own journey. Like I've said, everybody has their own journey.
yeah,
So you're looking at somebody else's path, that might not be the best way to go about it. But still having that drive and the motivation
Yeah.
to push every day to be better than your competition, that's like the healthy side of competition.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's that dichotomy that a lot of people struggle with that. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Especially with social media nowadays and seeing everybody's accolades, accomplishments that they have, but nobody's seeing the dirt that they had to go through to get there.
Yeah.
Nobody's seeing their own process. You know what I mean? That's honestly why we do this,
Yeah.
right? To hear the stories. So
Yeah, it's funny you say that about process because I where I'm at now, I kind of look back and I'm just like if you had to tell me I had to do all the things I had to do to get here, I'd be like, oof, I would be super hesitant on doing it, you know,
yeah,
to be honest
yeah.
with you.
No, yeah. I mean, it sounds like you've had a pretty roller coaster of a ride of emotion too. I
Yeah,
feel like,
yeah,
that's one thing, and um, you know, I mean, you hear a lot of people say this too, is like the persistence aspect of being able to, keep a level head when you're at the high moments, but also be able to get through the tough moments and know that there's something else on the other side waiting for you if you can push through. Which is hard, man. Like there
yeah,
there are a lot of times where those lows they can really get to you. Was there like anything that you used in those times,
yeah.
in the times of the lows where you were able to climb out, and kind of live to fight another day, if you will.
Yeah, so let me like dive into this. So how it kind of how my journey really started. So when I
Yeah,
was in North Carolina, I ended up I was supposed to move in with my friend Tommy, right? But he already had roommates and stuff. And my dad is really known nationally and respected by a lot of college coaches and stuff just because he's been around for so long. So the head coach there is Pat Popalizio, and he called my dad. He's like, "Hey, Tommy, you know he already has roommates and stuff, but I can move little Tony in with Tommy Gant. Tommy Gant's animal. He wrestled 79 kilograms. He was All American in college. Graduated from NC State. So my dad kind of told me the situation, and I was like hesitant, right? Because Tommy Gantz, he was I think 28 at the time, and I'm 18. So I'm like, man, I don't want to move in with this guy. He's a grown guy. Like, what if I want to have fun and stuff? I'm like, man, I don't want to do this. And I was super hesitant. And he's like, nah, it'll be good. It's good. So I was like, whatever. Like, I was not big on it. And then come to find out the first week, he's like just like me. Tommy's like a big kid, right? He's like, I was like,
yeah,
in a week, we're like best friends. So he like took me under his wing and he became like just a big brother to me, basically. So we're really lucky to have him. He made sure I was getting all my practices in and stuff. And I mean, I was motivated too. I mean, obviously you
yeah,
have to be self-motivated, but he was super big, super big. Like, I mean, I would say those practices I was going to, they weren't even mandatory for me, but I was just practicing like I had to be there. Like I didn't have to do none of those extra things I was doing. I didn't have to practice. I'm not even on a team. I'm not, but I was like practicing literally like every day, like on college schedule. And for me, it was just seeing like those little jumps I was making was super motivating for me. Like I felt myself getting better. Then it would be times I would get to wrestle with some of the college kids, and I'm like, oh snap! Like this dude's a freaking third at Ohio, and like I'm going with him. Or this dude's like multiple state champ here, and I'm beating him. And I was like, those little things made me like, all right, yeah, I'm gonna keep doing this. Um,
little wins.
yeah,
Yeah,
little wins, and those are big. And I would go to like open tournaments, and the first few I did was like fifth place, fourth place, but I was beating dudes that were way more accomplished than me in high school, and I was losing to like, the more premier guys. And I was just making like little jumps throughout those years, and then like I would say God just gave me like moments where it's like keep going, like keep going. He would give me like I would say at the time like the biggest blessings I could receive is like what I received. Like
yeah,
so since I wasn't on a team, I still had like just crazy situations that happened. I'll give you guys one where growing up, I never watched wrestling. I wasn't big on wrestling. Like I said, I kind of hated it. But the one dude I used to love wrestling is Jordan Oliver. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him.
no,
He's a multiple national champ for Oklahoma State. And he was an animal. He was a phenom. Um, and he was training at UNC. So Tar Heels, NC State, a little rivalry. But
yeah,
he's training at UNC and Tommy would go wrestle with him once in a while. So he one day, and he's like, "Yeah, you wanna go meet me in jail?" I'm like, "Oh," I'm like, "Hell yeah, let's do it." So I went to practice with him one day, and this is the Olympic year. This is was it 2020, I think. Yeah, 2020 or something like that. And I ended up rolling with him a bit, and he was like super like, "Yo, who is this kid?" He was like, "Who is this kid?" Right? So
Little boost to the
yeah,
ego.
yeah, a little boost. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, that's my guy. So he hit me up, and he was just like kind of telling me all these nice things about myself. And I ended up training with Jordan Oliver for those few months he was getting ready for Olympics, right? So here I am, like
Mhm.
no state titles, never placed at states, and I'm wrestling, getting this guy ready for Olympics. So it's just like crazy.
Wow.
Like it's just looking back, it's super, super insane.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's how a lot of stories go. I mean, we were talking about
Yeah.
like the small victories, but
Hmm.
like you need to win those like have those small victories or else there's no drive on a daily basis to be
Absolutely.
able to like, but I think that comes along with like the discipline side of things, you
Yeah.
know. Even like people who can stick to not snoozing their alarm in the morning. Like those are the like
Yeah.
little victories,
Yeah.
right? Like to
Discipline
get
is
up for a
huge.
workout or something like that, you
Hmm.
know. Was there a time so you did mention that you were um, on the lighter side, right? Like 90 pounds,
Hmm.
100 pounds. Did you ever take to training in the weight room or was that kind of like a secondary thing that you weren't very involved with?
No, I hate it. I hate weights. This is actually, to be honest, yeah, to
Really?
be honest with you, this is like the first summer I've really been super strict with my weightlifting, and that's credited to ASU. Our lifting program is just sick here. Like it's crazy. So my lifting has definitely grown. I would say I love it now. So it's something I do now. But no, I didn't really lift growing up. No.
Huh.
That's
I find
interesting.
a lot of the wrestlers at school are, you know, big guys in the weight room.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Anytime you go in there,
Yeah. Big
those are
time.
the ones you see there that are there on a regular basis. So
Hmm.
I'm surprised to hear that. And I mean, obviously at ASU, it's you guys have some of the best facilities in the world,
Yeah.
so it makes it easy to fall in love with it there.
Yeah.
Um, we had a trip out. We played games at ASU. I play for Long Island University.
Okay.
We had games at ASU and got to check some of your guys' facilities out, and it's just like top notch.
Yeah. Yeah. We
The
we
stuff
got
you guys have available, it's
yeah.
awesome.
We definitely got some nice stuff out here for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess that brings us to so where were we at? We were talking about I know the last time we were on the timeline was the 11th, 12th grade year.
Hmm.
So what happened what happened after that? What was the recruiting process like for you?
Yeah. So last year I was at Penn State. So what happened was just those 3 years I was in Raleigh, and I was
Hmm.
doing open tournaments because I wasn't on the team. I was doing well, and I was doing, I was beating some dudes, and then I ended up I wrestled at it's called Red Shirt Nationals. So it's like a national tournament basically for, guys that are redshirting or not starting. So I ended up taking second at that, and that helped. So I beat like maybe like Princeton starter. I beat a few good guys, and Coach Kale reached out to me at Penn State, which was, that's sick. Coach Kale is probably, one of the best wrestlers of all time, and that's
Wow.
credited to my dad as well. They have a relationship. He kind of reached out. He's like, "Oh, but actually, how that started, this is crazy." So before that happened, how that happened was, I made a visit to Penn State. I think a month after NCOs. So I didn't get hit up by him right away. I ended up going out there to train for a bit, and this kid that used to wrestle in Long Island during the time he was at my weight, Adam Busiela. He's like a five-time state champ. He's super super stud. He was down there. I was wrestling with him, and who else? A few other New York dudes. Coach Kale's there, and he had no idea who I was. And I'm doing pretty well, doing pretty well against these guys. He's like, "Yo, who is that?" And then I wrestled Zane Rutherford, who was a multiple national champ, and he said some nice things to Kale, and it helped a lot. So he reached out. He reached out to me, and I kind of decided that I was going to go there. And yeah, very much.
Interesting, interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, so that sounds like a pretty straightforward recruiting process, if you ask
yeah,
me. Like that's Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, a lot of that's like one of those things too where a lot of people struggle, at least from my perspective in the hockey industry, because it is an industry, is that like the recruiting process is crucial for the athlete, but it's the most difficult process in terms of like weeding through, figuring out where you'd play, looking at the depth charts, all those kinds of things are important in terms of prolonging your career and
Yeah.
advancing and growing as a player. What made you go from Penn State to Arizona?
Um, so while I was at Penn State, I was wrestling 157 last year. I'm 65 this year. So I'm 6'1", 157. That's well 6'2". That's huge for the weight. So um I was there and I was having some issues with some weight cut. And to be honest with you, when I got to Penn State, everything I did to get there started going down. This goes back to those up and downs, right? So I'm on a high right now. I'm starting for Penn State, and I'm like, dang, like I went from freaking, where I came from. I told you guys my story to I'm starting for the number one team in the nation, right? This is like crazy. So I would say I got a bit complacent, and once I started for them. I was kind of like not working hard. I mean, I wasn't slacking, but I wasn't doing everything I did to before to
Right.
get there, right? So I kind of wasn't really on top of my weight. I wasn't dieting correctly, so I was having really bad weight cuts. I was getting up to like 172 on a Monday, having to make 157 on a Saturday, like just just crazy, right? Just crazy. Wasn't doing what I had to do. And it just the season didn't go the way I wanted to. And how it works there, it's like everyone in that starting lineup is competing for a national title, right? So it's like, everyone's freaking national champ there. They win
Yeah.
nationals every year. So after the season I had, those coaches they believed in me, which they did. They were really high on me, but I kind of like felt I lost a bit of their, I wouldn't say respect, just I felt they were kind of like eh after the season I had, and I just felt like the effort they put into me before the season just wasn't there. Like not that they basically felt like they kind of gave up on me. So
Hmm.
I was like, yeah, I'm gonna hop on this transfer portal. And how it worked, I grew up with Ja'Cory Teamer, who's our 57 out here, and I actually wrestled him earlier in their season. Um, at a Florida tournament, and I had like a pretty close match with him. So the coaches at ASU, they got to see me wrestle their best dude, and I lost like 5-3, 5-3. It was a close match. It was a close match. So
Hmm.
they got to see me wrestle, and when I hopped on the portal, they reached out to me, and when I got on the visit out here, I just loved it. I love the coaches. I love the environment. Tempe is super nice weather and stuff, and the style here really fits me. So that's how that came about.
Yeah, that's interesting. And Dylan, we've talked about this before, actually, about the sort of, I guess, global political climate, economical climate, all of them, is that whole concept of strong men creates easy times create weak men, that vicious cycle that kind of goes around. But it's in everything, right? Like there's focus, it's the discipline.
Hmm.
When things are going easy for you and you're on top of the world,
Yeah,
training's going to be easy, like everything's all going to be good, but you're also not doing that extra edge to kind of get ahead. Like that's when the
yeah,
discipline gets really difficult, is staying on track when you have everything. But then once you fall down to the bottom, that's where you get that chip on your shoulder, and it's comeback time, right? Like
yeah.
that's where the focus can
Mhm.
come in and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's it's interesting how that works, and it happens to everybody though. Like
Yeah.
that's just how it goes.
Yeah, I think
You know.
discipline and maintaining are two really big things. And something that helped me a lot in my journey is I go back to that 11th grade year when I quit. I felt like a lot of at the time I was like, yeah, I'm not going to regret this, but after I had a lot of regret. So I think just with anything I do, like I just have it embedded in my mind. I'm not going to quit just because I know how how much like pain that brings. So it's
Yeah,
just like
you know what
it's
it
just
is.
about finding a new way. It's just nah, just it's a lot of ups and downs. You just got to keep on with the process,
Yeah.
finding new ways.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the whole concept of learning from your mistakes, right?
Yep,
You don't make the same mistake twice. You know, you
exactly.
gotta find a way around it, find a solution.
Mhm.
You know. But yeah, so I mean that pretty much brings us up to speed. So I guess like, one thing we ask a lot of our guests is what the plan is for the future. What are your goals? Short term, long term,
Yeah.
whatever it might be.
Yeah, so fast forward today is just super disciplined. I mean, so super just locked in with diet and just training. I'm lucky enough that some people like they see me, some of the guys in the room, I know they question like, damn, that guy works really hard and stuff, but I'm just lucky enough that I love what I do, you know? And I think that that's a big thing. When you love what you do, the process and the accolades is just it's easy when you love what you do, you know? It's like all those things
Yeah.
come. Like when I wake up in the morning, I'm hyped to get a good meal in me. I'm hyped to get on that run. Hyped to learn new things, and it just helps a lot. It just helps a lot.
Yeah. So what was the like dieting for you? I know you mentioned there were a couple times you struggled with it. Is that something that's kind of easier now in terms of
Yeah,
dieting, cutting down to weight?
yeah. This is like the first year I've been super dialed in with my diet, and I'm like, I have like the biggest addictive personality, right? So whatever I'm doing, I do it to the freaking max. So now that I'm on this diet kick, everything is healthy. Um, I'm talking super healthy.
Yeah.
So it's actually fun. I've been having fun with it, and it's been helping my wrestling a lot. It's been a really big
Yeah.
game changer between weightlifting and just eating right. Um, it's a game changer. So like everyone's going to practice, everyone's working hard. It's like finding those little things to separate yourself from the pack. You know, sleeping,
Yep.
100%.
getting those extra hours of sleep is huge. Eating, it's just so many things. Reading, recovery, all those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's dive into a couple of those.
Yeah.
Like from a diet standpoint, what are you eating these days? Like, is it chicken, rice? Like, what do you got?
Um, give you guys some heat. All right, yeah. So nah, I do a lot of different stuff, but I'm big on like salmon. I get a lot of omega and
Oh, okay.
steak. I'm big on eggs. I eat a lot of eggs. Just a lot of healthy stuff. Just
Yeah,
all that type of
yeah,
stuff. To be honest with you,
yeah, yeah,
a lot of water.
definitely.
I get
And
like
then
2 gallons of water in a day.
really 2 gallons.
Yeah, yeah,
Jesus.
yeah.
Do you sweat a lot when you train?
Yeah, when I'm getting a lot of water and I sweat and then I cut back. So it's the weight cutting
Yeah.
process is like a science. You kind of load yourself up with water and then getting closer to that weight cut, you kind of cut back on it.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, and then so you mentioned recovery as well. I'm sure you guys have access to
Yeah.
a lot of great recovery tools and accessories over there.
Hmm.
What is a like what's your recovery situation look like besides sleep? Obviously sleep
Yeah.
is the biggest recovery tool, but
Me personally, I like doing massages. We have our our therapist Amanda. She's the best. So I try to get in with her as much as possible. We're allowed like one massage a week, but I come out of pocket. I make sure I get like three massages a week, and then I'll do a lot of ice baths. But honestly, I think sleep is like the biggest one out of all them things.
yeah.
Yeah.
How
For
much do you
sure.
sleep? What's a typical night look like?
My body personally, I feel really good when I get like 11 hours of sleep, I would say.
Holy.
Woo.
Yeah,
Damn.
but
That
it goes back to
that's
the discipline thing though, you know? So it's like you got to say no when they're like, "Hey, you want to come out, go to this party or something or we got some good, it's like I got to get those hours of sleep." So it goes back to that discipline thing.
yeah, I mean, across the board, it's different. That's another thing that's torn between a lot of athletes. Like, there are some athletes I know. I think it's LeBron that's notorious for sleeping a ton of hours.
I
Dylan,
don't know.
you probably seen something about him.
Yeah, everyone's different. I don't
I
know.
haven't heard
No,
that.
I know some
yeah, I
dudes,
know.
man,
Like,
they can kill it on 6 hours. Not me. I need my
Yeah.
sleep.
I
yeah,
know.
Yeah.
I look at some of my
yeah,
teammates. We have a defenseman. He's the same way. He's like, I can't. If I sleep 8 hours, I'm half awake.
Yeah.
The next half the day. So he feels best 5 6 hours. That's all he gets, and that's how he goes.
Hey, good for him. I wish I was
Uh,
him.
yeah. That's insane.
Not
I mean, I
me.
don't even me personally. Like, I don't even think freaking 11 hours. I don't even think I could force myself to try to sleep for 11 hours. That's
Well,
impressive. Do you like take naps or anything or no? Or is
mm,
that just like through the night?
not through the night. I go to bed pretty early right now. No,
Oh,
usually when I get good sleep like that, I don't take naps because I'm training throughout the day. I train multiple
right,
times throughout the
right.
day, so I don't really nap. No.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's another thing too is like that I've really taken note of is the whole circadian rhythm
Hmm.
process and the science behind that. Like I try to go to bed at the same time every time, but most importantly, get up at the same time every day, and that like keeps your
Mhm.
cycles on point. Are
Yeah,
you strict with that kind of stuff?
yeah, yeah. I'm pretty strict with
Yeah.
that stuff. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. That's good stuff. I mean, that's wow. That's good to hear though too. Like
Yeah,
an athlete taking that kind of stuff seriously because Dylan and I we talk about this all the time. Like when you get to a certain level, everybody's good.
yeah,
Everybody can play. Everybody can perform, but how are you going to be able to separate yourself? And it really is those little things on a day-to-day basis that ultimately gives you that edge.
yeah.
So
Mhm.
so that's awesome. But you got anything else you want to share with us? Any stories or anything like that? And then we'll move to Dylan and see what he's got.
Well,
Uh,
I'll jump in right
yeah.
now. We never got back to the original
Let's hear
question.
it.
What are your goals for the future? What are your plans? What's the next 1 to 3 years look like? Where do you want to take this?
Yeah, so this year is to win a national title. I mean, everyone says that, but that's the goal is to be a national champ.
Mhm.
And just taking those steps every day to fulfill that. So it's not really saying it and more so doing it through action, you know. And then just
Right.
every year is really to is working towards to be a national champ, to be honest with you.
How many years you got
I
left of
got
eligibility?
I got this year, next year, and a half year. So we'll see what I'll do with that half year.
Mm, okay,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Plenty of
that's good
time.
stuff.
Yeah, so that's how
Any
well
plan on staying at Arizona State?
that's another thing. It's funny you say plenty of time. I think something that's helped me as well is when you come to reality with the concept of time. When you realize that time is like this and it goes by super quick, I think it could help.
Yep.
I think it could help you like accomplish anything, to be honest with you. Like looking back,
Yep.
it felt super long at the time, like those 3 years. But then looking back, it's like, damn, that went by really quick. So that's actually
Yeah.
another thing that's helped me a lot. Just knowing how fast time is it goes by.
Yeah. Yeah, it
For
is. I
sure.
mean, we talk about this pretty much every day, but
Yeah,
how I mean, geez, it's like this year's flying. It's Thanksgiving,
crazy. It's
like this
crazy.
coming week. It's like what the hell, man?
Yeah,
It's time's just going.
Yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, you're right. I mean, it's a huge asset to us, but a lot of people, you know, time management, procrastination, like those two things are procrastination is a killer. It's an
The
absolute killer of
worst.
dreams, goals, whatever it might be, and everybody battles it though.
Yeah,
That's for damn sure.
yeah. It's
That's
the
where the
worst.
discipline comes in.
Yep, yep.
Yep. But yeah. Dylan, you got anything else for him?
No, I think that's everything. It was great to have you on and hear your story and just, what you went through. That's probably one of the best examples we've had of someone who's really just battled through and, found their way to the top, or found their way to, you know, a place where they can reach the top
Yeah.
and, reach your goal of being a national champion.
Mhm.
And you're in a great spot to do it. So it was great to have you on and hear your story.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you got anything else you want to share with us or the listeners? And one last thing, but after you have any last thoughts, is one piece of advice for our listeners. So before you formulate that thought, go ahead with whatever you want to say for a final closing.
Yeah, one piece of advice I would have is I know you guys, people hear this all the time, but I think one piece of advice would be stay away from alcohol and the weed. That's like just a big killer. I see a lot of dudes that are super talented and they work hard, but then their weekends are spent drinking or smoking, and it's just, you know. So
Yeah.
Yep,
that would be a big one, and just staying with the process, staying with the process, and just having faith in God is a huge one for me. Those
that's
are
awesome.
yeah,
Good,
Right on.
good stuff. Yeah, I mean that. Yeah, I mean that's obviously that's a given that a lot of people don't realize is
yeah,
a given. They like to make those little excuses like, oh, it's just one time. Everybody's doing it.
yeah,
What do
yep,
you
yep,
mean?
yeah,
Hmm.
But then, Tony's getting his 11 hours. He's freaking ready to rock the next day,
yeah.
So
I live for those dudes that party on the weekends. Let's get it. Come in the
yeah,
circle with me.
yeah. Yeah. All right, man. Well, it was great having you on, and once again, it's just awesome hearing another story. That's
Yeah,
we live for this. This is what it's all about: sharing each other's stories, talking about it, discussing things, and we'd love to have you on in the future and
absolutely.
dive deeper on some topics,
Yeah,
and see where you're at in a few months down the line, a year down the line, whatever it might be. But we appreciate you coming on.
yeah, sounds good.
All right, man. Good luck. Good luck with the rest of the season and everything going forward. Yeah, I mean, we just how we closed out the interview, right? Like those are the stories that we want to hear. The ups and downs, the obstacles. Um, I personally love hearing it, and I actually resonated with the I for me it was a little later. It was after juniors, which was when I was 20, 21 years old, and he said that in 11th grade he had enough. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm,
just where everything was at, and when I was thinking about that, I started thinking about my own journey at that point in time with hockey, and I was kind of fed up with a lot of things that had happened. I was kind of losing these little battles on a repeated
mm,
basis, and that kind of takes the life out of you. It takes the confidence out of you.
does
It
takes a toll
seems
for
like
sure.
there's no way out. Like those are the times we really got to dig deep. I didn't realize that in the moment, right? Obviously, I'm back now, but like, you know, I'm still paying the price for it
Mm,
in terms of the journey itself, and I know I got to pay the price for it, and he paid the price for it. Like that's how it works, right? Like if you I feel like people need to realize like that's what happens when you quit. That's what happens when you give up on something that you've worked so hard for. If you give up, if you want to come back, you're going to pay the price. So you got to be
yep. And
willing
even
to.
not even just on the sports side for him too. Like look at school. Okay, like he couldn't go to
Yeah.
a Division 1 school,
Yep.
couldn't get into Penn State, had to fight through 3 years of community college, which is just crazy. Um, to think like he's not even on a team. He's at community college, and then he goes to Penn State, and now at ASU. Like what a turnaround.
Yep.
But
Imagine where his
he
mind
put
was
the
at
work in.
in community college when he was there. Like, yeah, how many people do you think are actually wrestling at a community college thinking that they're going to make it D1, they can do it, they're going to get there? Like that takes an unrelenting will, desire, discipline to really get to the next level, and that's what
Mm,
he had to come to the conclusion, right? Like he even said it himself, from the mental side of things. Um he'd reach those points where he's just like, nah, I'm gonna kind of go on cruise control for a little bit, and
yeah.
that's when he would fall off. He'd start losing to people he shouldn't be losing
Hmm.
to, and then he's like, "Well, fuck, it's time to turn this thing around." And that's when the focus would kick in, the discipline would kick in. People don't realize that you got to have the discipline when you're winning and when you're losing. Like,
Yep.
it's I find it easier. I mean, anybody would find it easier that when you're winning, it's easier to go through the routines, the daily disciplines, but it's
Definitely.
difficult it's difficult in those times. Yeah, it's easy to do those things, but are you deliberately doing them? Are you
Hmm.
deliberately trying to improve on a daily basis? And that's kind of where Tony kind of had the issues, right? It wasn't an issue of staying in the game, right? Because he was winning, he was like, it was great, it's good, he's going to win states and all those kinds of things. But deliberately going to practice and being like, okay, what's the little thing that I can improve on here? I'm really good right now, but what's this little factor that's going to push me on to that next level? um
Yeah.
that's the tough part about being on top. You know what I mean? That's just
Hmm.
like the concept that I mentioned in the About Us video about the wolf climbing the hill, right? Like everybody knows that saying. The wolf
Yeah.
climbing the hill is always gonna be tougher and more disciplined and ready to go to get to the top than the wolf that's already there, that's already done it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Um,
I think the
so
greatest, one of the best examples right now is Chris Bumstead. He,
yeah,
he
perfect
talks
example.
about that saying all the time. He's the 3-time champ, and everyone's telling him the wolf climbing the hill is going to be hungrier than you. And he
Yep.
goes, the only wolf I'm competing against is myself. And
Yeah.
like that's another example. I can't wait to see what he does because is he gonna succumb to that saying, and is he gonna
Yep.
lose it to Dino or whoever's chasing him, or is he gonna be able to stay on the throne? But that's another prime example of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's that whole concept, and we covered this book. If you guys were listening before, if you weren't, go back to the episodes where we cover Tim Grover Relentless, and we kind of talk about, well, he talks about this, but we just discuss it about that whole cleaner, closer, and what was the other one? Cooler.
Yeah.
Cleaner, closer, and cooler. And the
Well,
cleaner is the, well, reversed, yeah, obviously.
yeah. Yeah.
But the cleaner is the guy who gets the job done on a daily basis, whether he's winning or not. Like that's the guy who can win championship year after year after year after
Hmm.
year, without, wavering discipline, anything like that. You know what I mean? And it's the toughest thing to do. That's that whole concept, right? Like that's Bumstead. Is he going to be able to do that?
Hmm.
And not many people can. Like that's few percentage of people that can achieve that cleaner status. But once again, that was a great story. And we look forward to having him on in the future. Hopefully next time we have him on, he's got a national championship under his belt. That'd be
Yeah.
cool to share that story, and underdog to champion. That's ultimately the goal with everybody, right? Um, but yeah,
For
so
sure.
once again, we thank you guys for listening, and please leave a review. It'll help us get this podcast out there, these stories out there. And if you're not aware and you're just a listener of the podcast, we released UD Energy, clean energy drink formulated for primarily collegiate athletes, but athletes of all walks of life. It's clean, it's transparent. We have only the ingredients that you need in a ready to drink pre workout or an energy drink. Let me tell you, you will be absolutely buzzing on this freaking drink. Like, read the reviews. Yeah, obviously we have a biased opinion, but we got plenty of people who can back it up that this thing is legit. We spent just over a year working on this, Dylan and I. Now we're building this team and trying to get this thing out there, and to give the athletes the access to this. Like that's what this is all about. It's about the athletes helping them get the edge, and kind of bringing their dreams to life there and bring them to fruition. So um, you can shop at www.udenergy.shop, and you can follow us on Instagram and other social media handles at underdog_brand, where we post snippets, pictures of clothing, rundowns of certain ingredients in our drink, and a lot more than that, honestly. And we're still working on more content ideas right now as we speak. So follow us on there. Stay tuned. We're also going to be going to some in-person events soon, which will be announced, and hopefully if you guys are local, you can join in, come by, stop by, try the drink, get some clothing. But once again, thank you, and we'll see you on the next episode.